And I think we're live now. So welcome to PPC Town Hall number 12. My name is Fred Valles from Optmyzr. I've been doing the PPC Town Halls for, as it says, 12 or 13 weeks. We skipped a week. And we try to keep it fresh and exciting by introducing new content and having focus areas and always new speakers. So this time I wanted to talk about YouTube and video ads. And so a couple of the questions that have come up recently is YouTube. Has that become really cheap during COVID when a lot of advertisers may have pulled back some of their spend? Or is YouTube even cheap by comparison when you look at search ads? And so that's one question that we're going to address today. The other question is YouTube really just for branding and building your upper funnel traffic? So is that the truth or is that a misconception? And if you are more interested in selling stuff or lead generation, what are some of the solutions that you could deploy from YouTube? And how do you connect your YouTube efforts to some of the other efforts you might already be doing on Google Ads? So before the show started, I had given the wrong link for my guests to join me. And I was very worried because most PPC topics I can talk about for hours myself. But when it comes to YouTube, I really do need some help. So for that today, we have two great guests. So I want to introduce first Cory Henke from Variable Media. So Cory, he's got a couple of claims to fame that we'll put up on the screen right there in a minute. But Cory had the best presentation overall at HeroConf in 2018. So congrats on that. And it was a presentation, of course, about YouTube and video. So tell us a bit about yourself, Cory. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Fred, I appreciate the opportunity. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So I think, a little bit about me. I've been really working in YouTube for the past 3 to 4 years, and started my agency focused on that, and we've expanded out into analytics and Facebook since then. But YouTube has really been great for advertisers, and really a platform that not only gives you performance, but in my opinion gives you some of the best consumer behavior. You learn so much about your audience, as well as new consumers, returning consumers, new visitors, returning visitors, just through the video, let alone the performance metrics that you get. And when you combine YouTube with the targeting, the experience, and the history of Google, you really can make a platform with video, change the look of your brand, and then change your brand from also a performance and revenue standpoint. So we've leveraged it to do some really great things.
Cool. So we'll talk much more about that. Now, I do have to admit, one of my producers, I'm bringing him in right here. I don't know if he wants to show his video, but he was really excited about something related to you. So, Ashwin, are you there?
Yeah. So I grew up in New Jersey in the 90s, and I was the only kid who liked Scottie Pippen more than Michael Jordan. And I used to get so much crap for that.
That's okay. Hey, man, you got a friend over here. I've used his accomplishments, to always say, like, man, if you've got a little bit of his blood in your veins, anything is possible. So I really appreciate that you're a fan, dude, because he never gets the credit he deserves.
Definitely not.
Cool. Ashwin, thanks for producing the show with us. I'll send you back to the background for now. But let's bring in Joe, our other panelist. So, Cory won best presentation, but Joe in that same year at the same conference won most actionable. I'm sure he might have had a better shot at winning best presentation if it had been about YouTube, but I think it was about something else, Joe. And Joe before the show was saying that his internet's been.
I voted for Cory. So.
Oh, good.
I appreciate it.
Well deserved, Cory. So, Joe, tell us a bit about yourself. If your internet will hold up there.
Yeah. I'm the director of clients. Yeah. But my passion has really been really near and dear to my heart. It's been a passion of mine, and I'd like to utilize it for a bunch of clients, no matter what type of industry. It works.
Nice. So welcome to the show. Internet, not great. So we might have to do a lot of typing and put third banners to get people to what you're saying. But we have people listening to us live. So I always like to ask, where are people coming in from today? So if some folks want to put that in the comments where you're listening from today, your country, say hello. We'll show that up on the screen right now. And I know people are watching, so don't be shy. Tell us where you're coming in from. Last week we had people I saw from Belgium. We had some from Finland, from Europe. Yeah, it looks like today people are shy or the comment system is not working. So what we're going to do is we're going to roll the opening clip here. There we go. Somebody coming in from Ireland. Welcome from Ireland, where I'm sure it is happy hour, and you might be drinking a Guinness, right? All right, so let's open the show, and then we'll go into the discussion in just a minute here. All right, so we're talking YouTube and video ads. So I wanted to set the stage with something here, which is a little bit of industry research to put YouTube in context of all of the other things folks on this call are probably doing. And so this is some research that was spearheaded by Brain Labs and Henke. Optmyzr is also sponsoring the collection of this data. So the question that I thought was interesting here, if you look on the right side of the screen, is last month, which paid media platforms were you advertising in? So you can see there that was Google, Facebook, then Instagram, then Microsoft, and then YouTube in 5th position. And YouTube was about on par with Microsoft. So, but what was interesting was the prediction for June. So looking forward to the next month, where did people think they would be spending their money? And that chart has disappeared. Where did they go? I can swear to God, guys, yesterday it was there. But yesterday, before they changed the dashboard, YouTube had gone to the number 3 position. So I was kind of curious from the two panelists, like, what are you seeing in terms of YouTube? Is that like cheap now in COVID days that people pull back on it? And where does it sort of fit in when maybe some strategies have shifted?
When has it not been cheap? I mean, I think that's the honest question. I think that's been something Cory, myself, and you probably heard Brian Garvin on a few webinars too. We've been harping on this for years. It has always been insanely cheap just due to the platform itself. There is so much video content being uploaded to the platform every single hour that there's not enough ad inventory being uploaded.
Yeah, and
advertising is really cheap.
And building on what Joe said, I think for what we are seeing is things are, I'd say 15 to 30% cheaper than what Joe already mentioned, which was already cheap. So there definitely is more value. I just think it depends on the advertiser because, during these COVID times, I think people are just a little bit more nervous about spending at a higher level. And YouTube is kind of that, okay, I've taken care of search, taken care of Facebook and Instagram. Now let's test into YouTube. I think now's the time, because things are so much more efficient, if you're willing to test in that area. But I still look at it as a platform that isn't necessarily first, but I think it still needs to be uncovered because it can add so much value outside of just performance.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And Joe, you were saying that part of the reason it's always been cheaper is just there's continuous new content being pushed onto the platform. But that's also the downside of it, right? That's why advertisers in the past have basically said, we're pulling off of YouTube unless Google gets their act together and cleans it up, because we don't want our brand to show next to something that could be highly objective, or it could just be something that we don't really agree with, but it's not like the worst thing in the world. So how have you guys seen that play out?
Initially, we've seen better in terms of content exclusions that you can add to the mix that have been better. Some of the lists that have been hand curated by other marketers. A lot of people have been proactive with creating specific exclusion lists, whether it goes from, I created one about kids websites, if you don't want your stuff on kids channels, other people have created one for news websites and any controversial one, any political websites. So there are a lot of lists out there that you can add for exclusions. Some of that stuff you can be proactive on, but also I think some of the ad formats itself, like the TrueView discovery campaigns, you can limit yourself to target just the YouTube search results with discovery campaigns. You don't have to be a pre-roll in-stream ad all the time, and that gives the advertiser a lot more control.
Yeah. I would have to agree. I would definitely have to agree. Sorry, were you gonna say something, Brett?
No. It's always great when the guests disagree because it gets lively. Put on the boxing gloves.
Well, I think we take a little bit of a different tactic. I think Joe.
Wrong.
I think Joe and his exclusion lists are great. Like we use them, and I encourage other people to use them. But I think our tactic that we take with our brands is we try to build our own, I guess you could say, like media platform with our own channels, like building our own TV station. Like we know, oh, these placements work. These placements do also work well. Let's continue to add them to our own list, right? Oh, wow, these placements, aren't doing well, and let's add them to that Joe list of exclusion. So it's continuing to optimize and continuing to learn, because when you start to find different channels and different pages or different videos that work well, that's also key insight into your consumer. This is the video that they're going to watch before, or this is the video that they're going to watch after this ad plays. And so that is interesting. Like we were working with an advertiser that was not necessarily working well on YouTube, and it was for a baby product. And what we found is that with the minimal conversions that happened, right, it all came before hurricane content. And that was interesting. It's like hurricane news content. Like that's what's really driving these conversions. And what we found is it was more of a fear-based type of product, is that like before you're watching hurricane content, you're in kind of a heightened mode. And so serving something that could potentially help the future, child of yours, right, kind of gets you into that mode. So I think there's value in understanding the channels that convert as well as do well for you from like a CPC or click-through rate perspective.
And is this then a difference in like strategies? And Cory, you're sort of saying like build your own platform, your own like TV channel almost. So does that mean like you latch on to the big influencers, the channels that you like, and you just kind of trust that they continue producing enough content? Whereas maybe the Joe, what you're saying is, listen, there's so much new content, and that's what makes it cheap, and let Google's machine learning figure out where to match you to, but take a few more risks along the way, because some of that stuff is new. Some of the channels are new, don't have that much content, so you don't really know who they are.
Yeah, Fred, I would, our tactic, I think there's two approaches. I think Joe's approach is really to take advantage of like Google and the targeting, right? If I open it up broad, I keep it more affinity based or broad in market, I'm taking advantage of all the new videos being uploaded and all the new content. What I'm saying is that like, if you find channels that work well, you can have you can have both, that work well. It's just like I have that broad, strategy. But then I also know like these certain little pockets that do very well for me. And while they aren't scalable, I still think that that there's still value in understanding why those channels work well, versus others.
Makes sense. And I think Joe has dropped off for a minute to reset his Wi-Fi router.
That's okay.
But Cory, let's talk a bit about the formats that you have on YouTube then. So bring those onto the screen right here.
Sure.
Right. So, and by the way, all of these resources for everyone watching, if you want to find the resources that we're showing, we're not going to show the links. They're too long to type in. But if you go to the show page, right there on episode resources, you click on that link right there. We've taken literally every link that we're talking about. It's on that page. And if we talk about some new stuff here that we hadn't put on the list before, we'll put that on later today as well. So that's a great place to find links and resources about what we're talking about. But yeah, anyway, back, this is the YouTube Hub page on formats, right? So talk a bit about favorite formats you got.
Favorite formats. Let's scroll down a little bit. Let's talk about the fun stuff, Fred. Anyway, no, scroll up a little bit. No, scroll up a little bit. Let's talk about those first two. Let's talk about skippable and non-skippable. Right. The first two that Fred showed were on the display side. I think those are fantastic units. But in my opinion, I think you can learn so much more from a skippable or a non-skippable video ad. I think when we compare these two, the big differences that I see are these non-skippable ads usually drive very high cost per clicks, but also very high completion rates. With a 15-second interstitial type of ad, you usually get a higher completion rate, very similar to a bumper ad, which is a 5-second, again, non-skippable in the beginning. This mostly plays in between. I think you find somebody who's willing to watch your ad to the end, but not necessarily willing to click through and find more. So more of like a brand placement that is 15 seconds. I like it, but more harder to like learn from. With a skippable video, knowing that you don't pay for a user until 30 seconds, there's a lot that you can learn in that first 30 seconds, in my opinion. There's a lot more that you can optimize inside of a skippable video ad to make it more effective. And also with a skippable video ad, there's unlimited time. So you can run a 40-minute ad, or you can run a 10-second ad. And I think having that type of variation also gives you insight into what your consumers want to see from you potentially in future videos.
So we got the whole show we're doing here, and we could literally turn it into an ad, even if it's an hour long.
You can take this part, you can take this this presentation, whatever we want to call it, and you can well, it's already on YouTube it's already on YouTube currently, and so we can take this and put it right into Google Ads and run it as an ad tonight.
And talk a bit more. So you're talking a lot about learning stuff, right? So the longer format, you got 30 seconds to learn something about your consumer, the person watching it. Like what are you talking about learning? Like, is it demographics, how long they watch, what parts of the video they're interested in? Where do you find this?
Yeah. Well, we could take something like this, right? Like if we took this episode and we compared it against a different episode, you would now know, wow, which users are willing to stay longer versus in video versus essentially like Snapchat or Google Shopping, right? You would know, is it potentially the actor in the video? Like we ran a test with Dentech where we ran a 20-minute yoga type of ad. It was chair vinyasa yoga, and we used a black male and a white female as kind of like the spokesperson, just to see what people responded to. And we also created a funny and a not funny version, and the not funny version won, and the white female won, in terms of click-through rate and CPC, which was their key performance metrics. But what we found inside of that was we know who to put on our next Instagram post. We know who to put on our next in-feed ad if we want that specific metric. And I think that's what you learn. But besides that, there's a ton of different variables. Sound, length in the video, the type of video I think is so crucial. But I think the most important piece, create that variation in the beginning of the video versus in the middle or the end, because you'll learn more with more people that start.
Right, and the point being that if you got it wrong, then people will just drop off by closing the browser or just skipping the ad, and then you don't even learn anything from that middle portion.
Exactly.
Yeah, makes sense. Let's take a look at the other formats we got up here. So that's your skippable and non-skippable.
Yep.
Then we got your bumper ads and your sponsored cards.
Yes. So the bumper ads have been always a topic of discussion. I think they launched in early 2019, late 2018, and I've tested them across a variety of clients, app clients, e-commerce clients, business-to-business clients, and they might work the best for brand clients, because I haven't felt that they were as advantageous to us from an e-commerce standpoint. Like that really didn't allow us to really, evaluate that specific ad unit. I still think that it plays a role. I still think that it is a great branding tool if you want reach. The CPMs, are about 1/3 that of skippable, so you do gain value in reach. I think they work best, in my opinion, from what I've seen, when you're launching something new, which is introducing a new product, restocking something, potentially a flash sale, because at the lower CPMs, your audience is on YouTube, and you can reach a wider group of potentially a small audience, at the lower CPM with that 5-second bumper, if you just want to introduce them. But I would say that you want to serve that bumper to somebody who knows about your brand, because it's very hard to introduce something in 5 seconds, and they're not going to click through at a high propensity like in a skippable ad. So again, it's got to be, I think, a consumer that is either engaged or been to your website. And then I think the value is in the low CPMs and the high volume that you can reach inside of that small audience.
And so it sounds to me like that might even be useful in this COVID era where a lot of things have been closed, and I honestly have no clue at this point what's open, where I can go again. And that's even for where I live. I mean, God forbid I take a trip to New York, the other side of the country, like I'd have absolutely no clue. So have you done anything related to helping your customers like recover from COVID using YouTube and maybe these short re-engagement type ads?
I'd have to say no, unfortunately, Fred, because you work with a lot bigger clients, than I do, and so we had more clients of the idea, let's stop, our ad spend and let's focus on, what's going on in terms of COVID. So we had a little bit of that. We had other advertisers, increasing their spend because they were seeing value with everybody being at home. We have a couple of products that are, more in-home type of products, and those were doing really well. So we saw people spending more and actually testing more into YouTube. I think I didn't see much of a difference in view behavior, which I thought I would. I thought people would be spending longer time with videos, on YouTube, and that necessarily wasn't the change. I think the biggest change that we saw was there was more value in the system in YouTube. Things were cheaper, people were clicking through more, and conversion rates were better. But again, I think it was specific to the industry that is e-commerce versus some of the others that I think were more heavily impacted negatively.
Yeah, we'll talk about e-commerce in a minute. And Joe, I see you've shifted rooms. Hopefully,
I had to switch, so hopefully this is better, and I think this is going to hold up.
Did you go to your neighbor's house?
Yeah, I went from my dungeon basement office to the upstairs, so see if the kids can keep quiet.
But you sound really good now, so this is fantastic.
Good.
But the question was, so we're talking about bumper ads, right? And Cory was saying that basically you can't use these really short 5-6 second ad formats to get a new customer. It's mostly to re-engage with someone who's at least been exposed to your brand. And that made me think, like right now, like a lot of the stores that I like to go to, I have no clue if they're open. Like, has YouTube been something in your arsenal to get people aware about what shifted due to COVID and where people can go and spend their money again?
Yeah, YouTube has definitely been really important for a few of our clients. We haven't used the bumper ads specifically for that re-engagement. It's always been discovery. So we've had a few clients, discovery meaning like the motion of it, but we've had few clients who have used it for more top of funnel type aspect of it, where they were so focused on the bottom of the funnel using call to action extensions, True View for shopping, which we might talk about. They were so focused on that where they've actually shifted back to more just, hey, we're here, we exist, just when the time comes again that you want our product, we're just keeping in mind that we're still here, we're still selling. You can now buy online now instead of going to the store. So it's just kind of been the shift of positioning, but they have always used YouTube. It kind of depends on the industry. We have a SaaS client who has always used it, never stopped. And their approach is the same because they've always used it for peer awareness and top of funnel. And they've just maintained that same metric. It's been so cheap that they just never stopped because there wasn't any point to.
Yeah. And I suppose with the shifting in messaging, like we're talking video ads now in many cases, right? And these are not, for most people, the easiest things to build. It's not like a piece of text where you change out one call to action to another call to action. So let's talk about the YouTube video builder beta. It's fairly new. I did want to roll a clip first to show people a little bit about what this is. It's about a 2-minute clip, so bear with us, but it's from Google. Give us some context here.
So you want to reach your customers on YouTube, but what if you don't have a video ad? Or the resources to produce different video ads regularly? Meet Video Builder, an easy, fast, and free way to turn your images and marketing messages into compelling, high-impact video ads. Each video created through Video Builder has been designed to meet a high bar for creative quality. We also make it easy for you to follow YouTube's guidelines for effective ads. Follow these steps for making a video with Video Builder. First, select the layout that works best for your goal. Next, add your brand color and logo. Now the fun begins. Use the storyboard panel to help construct your story and see how your images and text will map to different points in the video. For example, image 3 will appear here, and your call to action will appear here. When entering images, we'll recommend the right style, size, and orientation. And when entering text, we'll recommend the right amount for each field, all based on our creative guidelines and your layout's pacing and structure. Next, pick a font. Use a recommended font or find a new one using the Google Fonts catalog. When you find one you like, come back here and type in the name. Then, preview and pick a music track that helps set the tone for your video.
All right, so we get the gist of it, right? And the beauty of live video is you can see people dropping off. So it's like, no, don't show us the Google stuff. Like, we're going. So let's get back to the chat here and hear from you guys. Like, have you used this feature? How do you build video ads? And by the way, Vital Consumer says, great session so far. So thanks for watching. Got some other people watching us from different places here. Vancouver Island, Pennsylvania is present. Jim from Orlando. I got a few folks from Utah. Reports. So thanks everyone for watching. So let's get back to the discussion, creating video ads.
I think this tool is fantastic. To me, there's no more excuses anymore. Well, I don't have that. That's what we hear all the time. I was like, oh, I don't have anyone to do video creative. Like we don't have the right assets to do it. And I was like, well, now you go. Here it is. It's extremely familiar. If you remember, guys, like 3 years ago now, YouTube had a director's app that was only available on the phone, and it's pretty much this. This is extremely familiar with it. So, well, you can hear my kids. Sorry about that.
We're all at home, Joe.
This is it. You can go in, look at. There's dozens of templates to look at if you're looking to promote products, a service, a mobile app, and then you can run through the templates. And if you pick one you like, it's going to show you exactly what images you need, the format and the size of those images. So as you're going through, it's just pretty much a template builder. And then as the thing showed, you just pick your music, which is royalty free. Again, something else you won't have to pay for. And then you can make your own video. And we've tested out a few ones. I did a few demos on my own just so I can get something ready to show clients. And for free, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I can't wait to reach out and ask about the result, Joe. I'm so excited to see what this does because it is really cool. And I think all the platforms have been trying to figure out how to turn a video into just custom variables, right? Like if I fill these variables, then that should make a video. Having worked with so many different creative agencies, I've felt this virtually impossible, for a lot of these different platforms to take variables from a creative and make a spot. But I think Google's is coming very close with this YouTube product that they have. So, it's still in its infancy. I'm excited to, see the results from it. But, I think what this might do is if a lot of advertisers take advantage of this could put, big creative agencies or creative agencies back into that wanted category. Because I think creative agencies have been kind of, attacked by UGC, right? Like, why would I go to a creative agency when I can create UGC content? Well, if everybody starts creating this type of content that is just stock photos, text overlays, and just gets the message across, maybe build a creative, from the start with actors, messaging, and like a story, maybe that becomes, more sought after, more applicable. It applies more feeling to it. I don't know.
Yeah, and Joe, I think you wrote an article on sort of the ideal length of a video ad. Some other tips, like what?
Well, the one specifically from the builder, you can do 6-second bumper ads, but then they do go up to 16 seconds. Everyone thinks like 15 seconds. So I was like, that seems like such a short time, but it's really 16 seconds where the template goes up to, which is funny. It's not that nice round number. So it's not a ton. If you want to do, like Cory says, tell a story or anything, it's not going to be right for you. This is really where we see where kind of Google goes with a lot of other platforms. They're trying to get to the smaller businesses who don't have the money to do this. I kind of compare this to one of my clients uses promo.com. And this is kind of the same thing where, promo is what, $30-$40 depending on a month, depending on what level you get. This is it, except it has way less features and way less stock footage to do, but it's very template based. So if you want to have control, total control, it may not be the best option for you, but after you're done creating one video, you can go back and create another version and re-edit it. So it does give you the option to do different versions for testing. And that is extremely important too.
Yeah. And that's a trend we see from Google, right? I mean, they said Google Ads has to be advertising that works for everyone, meaning like to the lowest like SMB or the smallest SMB. And that's why they build these tools. But then like experts like us, kind of like Cory's saying, you maybe want to go a little bit beyond just giving components and letting the computer figure it out. But you do have to have budget for it. So it's just a different ballgame. I
mean, if they could take this tool and say, upload it and then almost make it like an editor thing, or that they could take your current YouTube videos and let you edit it. Well, that'd be fantastic, but that's my wish list.
And so we got SA360 for the more advanced search advertiser. There's, what is it, Video 360? right?
Yeah.
Is that kind of the equivalent, like for the high-end sophisticated stuff, but a lot more expensive?
It's a little bit out of my, client's budget range, Fred, but with some of the agencies that I do talk to that have access to it, they find the biggest value in terms of like the inventory. Like they see that the biggest value in terms of 360 is the quality of inventory. I think they have similar video tools, but I could be wrong, because we don't currently use it with any of our clients.
Yeah, and let's talk about the quality a bit, right? So I don't know which of the two of you submitted this article to talk about, but basically, so Steelhouse, and which one of the two was it? You, Cory?
I want to talk about YouTube. It's a great platform. I use YouTube all the time. I have favorite channels,
no.
videos.
I was like, who just hijacked our But these guys are doing video clearly, and you go to their website and it loads of video. But Cory, tell us a bit about what this article is about.
I just found this article. I think it came into my email because I probably followed Steelhouse, and being in the LA market, and working at multiple agencies there, Steelhouse came and presented to us, and I just thought it was their positioning, of how 65% of all users skip YouTube. It was very much against YouTube and positioning, their product, against it. 100% of ads are served on the television screen for their, CTV product. And I was just looking at the positioning of how ad networks and connected TV are positioning themselves, against YouTube. And so I kind of wanted to talk, and get Joe's opinion about it, because as soon as I saw this, your opinion as well, Fred. But as soon as I saw this, all I could think about was, really? Like, how does connected TV have more scale than YouTube, let alone the targeting capability and the ability to change out, your creative and learn as much as you possibly can? You can convince me on scale and on the size of the screen, but if I take you into the back end of Google and I show you what's ending up on TV screens for my YouTube campaigns, you can see that that's growing. And I can also, segment just for TV screens. And so if you put YouTube in a fair comparison with connected TV just on the screen, like where does connected TV, really, I think, separate itself from YouTube? And I can't really find it. And so I brought this article to just kind of have a discussion about it. Like, are we seeing, the impact of connected TV? Because, I might sit in this small little cave in Utah, right? And not necessarily see, the big impact, coming from connected TV. And so I don't know, it was kind of trigger worthy for me. And so I wanted to bring it to the table.
Yeah, your place doesn't look like a cave, Cory. It looks pretty nice there.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
No, but I think it's a good point, right? So when you think about YouTube, and I think one of you made a point in an article you wrote, is that it's kind of a lean forward type experience. You're usually sitting at your computer, consuming it on a tablet, ready to push skip ad or push to the next video or push to go in, like something in your mind got triggered by seeing a video. So now you're researching that product or maybe even going and buying it. Whereas, and so that's always kind of had a stigma almost for some reason. It's like brand advertisers think it's really low end, which it is in their world. But now you have this whole connected TV, right? So now more and more consumers are shifting to consuming that same YouTube content by displaying it on the TV, which is across the room. You can't really interact with it that easily. And so from a branding perspective, like the ads don't get skipped because you're just not going to walk up to, you can't push the TV, right? So that's the difference here.
It kind of drives me nuts when people say, but people skip the ads. I was like, it's not always a bad thing. If it's someone who's irrelevant and skipping it, then you're not paying for it. Someone could be extremely relevant, still skip it. If it's a 30-second ad, they're still watching 25 seconds of it, skipping it. You're still not paying for it. They still could remember your brand, go back and search it. We can use tools within Google to look at this. And then also the cards. If they still click on your call to action extension after they skipped it, you're still driving potentially relevant traffic. They could still buy product from your ad after they skipped your video. So when they focus on, but everyone skips it, it's like, if you consider that a pure bad thing, you really don't know a lot about YouTube advertising.
And I think to add to that point, a skip is an engagement. Like, I know that person is there. Like, prove to me that somebody's watching your connected TV ad.
Yeah. Right. Because if I don't pay for the premium Hulu, when the TV commercial's on, that's my time to leave and take a break, and then I know it's going to be back in like a minute or so.
it has changed because people used to leave their dog at home and turn the TV on for them and just go to work. But now everybody's working from home. So there is actually a human in that house.
Yes. With 4 legs.
So I did want to show an article here from Google, right? So speaking about this whole connected TV, so YouTube Select was announced not that long ago. Have you guys looked into this at all? Any thoughts on it?
I've heard rumblings of it. I am beyond excited for it, and it's because of the data attached to it. Like, the big problem I have with TV and connected TV is I can't see the dashboard. I can't see the data. I can't spend $1 tomorrow and then $10 the next day and then back to $1, right? Like, I have to jump through so many different hoops. And so if YouTube Select comes to, Video 360 first, and then gets to finally the Google Ads platform 6 years later, like, we will, be able to, buy connected TV through a platform, which I think, is the future. And in my opinion, should already be here now, but I think this is, YouTube Select is a great way for them to draw that fair comparison against connected TV, the same way that they have that comparison against Facebook, right? Like, video, who's staying longer, who converts better. But I like the way that Google is moving because of their data, because I can leverage their data now on a television screen through connected TV. That, I think, is the advantage. But for connected TV providers, I think, it's a scary time.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take an audience question here. So Duty from Israel has been asking a few. So any thoughts on how you scale placements and topics campaigns?
To me, I always start as specific as possible. Research those placements first, and then had to tell my son to be quiet real quick. Sorry. We can look at managed placements first. Research the best options for your brand and see what you get from it. A lot of times what you do is just, you're literally typing in the placements while you're setting up the campaign. Look at those recommendations, find new ones to constantly add, and test those that are going to be extremely relevant to your business or your target audience first. Then I like to look at then my custom intent audiences. My custom intent audiences are the ones that are going to be very specific, because with video campaigns, they are based on broad match related search queries that someone actually typed into google.com. That's extremely relevant. And you can test out a variety of those custom intent audiences. And that's where I typically like to scale. I rarely use the super broad topic affinity audience type targeting with YouTube, no matter how big the client is, because we can always do something more specific and still scale with our own custom intent audience or custom affinity audience, which I've seen good in the past, than looking at specifically some broader topic. So to me, it's very easy because we can create our own custom audiences. Now, I said custom intent and custom affinity. Some people are already starting to see those merge in their accounts. None of my accounts have that merge yet. They're still separate for me. So I would look at just creating your custom audiences first, because there's so many different variations and ways that you can get in front of that. To me, it's easier to scale than just focusing on the super broad options that they give you by default.
Yeah, I find this question to be interesting, because we usually use our placement targeting at the low funnel. We usually like to build out our placements. And so it's kind of just like, that scales as, we learn, more about placements and channels and videos. So that's more at our low funnel. And so it's harder to scale that without knowing what works best. And then when you find what works best, you find that that channel isn't going to grow. It's only going to grow as fast as that channel grows. So scale is very limited in placements for what we use it for. Topics is where we find the most scale, and it usually sits at the top funnel. And so if we can find a topic that works really well, we will continue to push on that. And a great place to look for topics to test is your Google Analytics. Like, if your Google Analytics and you have e-commerce, conversion set up, where you have your goals set up for a conversion, if you drop that into the audience area, I believe that's what it's called, you can begin to find topics and find, in-market segments that can be very advantageous, to test and run. But a lot of YouTube is testing. A lot of YouTube is testing this topic, didn't work well. Okay, let's move on. Okay, let's find the scale within there. But like Joe said, we usually have topics at the top. If we find topics that work, we usually test into a custom affinity. If that custom affinity continues to do well, there's more scale in that custom affinity, so we might leave it there. But if we find insight there, we then go into custom intent and then in-market segments as kind of like that before engagement retargeting, web retargeting. So your question about like, how do I scale placements and topics? It's like, once you find that scale, learn from that, learn what topic it was, and begin to advance into some of the other targeting aspects that Google can give you.
Yeah, and one thing that we can do when you're creating a custom audience in the audience manager within Google, if you select the display option first and start typing in your keywords, they'll give you a ton of suggestions of ones that they recommend, and that can give you some new ideas. When you're doing the custom intent based off of Google search for your video campaigns, Google doesn't give you all those additional recommendations for the custom intent audience. It only shows up when you're creating the display one. So I would look at the display one and then use those ideas and just copy and paste those ideas to a video one, and that can give you some new ideas to test too.
Nice. There was another question about the start condition feature. So I think this might be related to video sequencing. And just to show folks for a second what video sequencing is. So you can basically build storylines, right? So you can show certain video ads first, and then other ones, and then yet other ones. And so this is Google's page. It's on the resources that we have. But there's 5 sequences that Google has tested. So tease, amplify, echo, a mini series, direct shot, a follow-up, and a lead-in. Have you guys tried these?
Yes, we've tried the first one as well as the last 2. The question though, when we talk about like video ad sequencing, you really need to have good video, the right setup. And, even then, I think this is still very, very, very tough to analyze, and still, a new feature for YouTube. But we found the most impact in the follow-up, like serving very much a long form, a 2-minute 30, getting people really engaged, and then following up either via a 15-second or a 10-second. We haven't found the best performance with the lead-in, and that's mainly because we think the long form is just a better start, to something. And it was the same with the beginning, the tease, amplify, and echo. But I don't think that we had necessarily the best advertiser for that. I think the tease, amplify, and echo could be best used with a sale, offer, launch, and it could be great from a pre-launch strategy. Tease with the pre-launch strategy, amplify with the launch, and then echo, after that launch campaign, whether it's 1 week or 2 week. But I think starting with the long form and then remarketing with short form is where we have seen the best performance across the majority of our clients.
This is where we've used bumper ads the most, was purposely setting up ad sequencing campaigns. And similar to what Cory said, we kept it very close to the end because we wanted to create additional audiences based off of the longer video views and the engaged users first. And I know if you're doing ad sequencing through Google Ads itself, not any multi-campaign, just strictly the ad sequencing feature for your video campaigns, you need to keep in mind too that if any video that you have as part of your sequence, any view of that video, whether it's an ad or not, is going to be included in that sequence. So if you want to start someone in a pure ad only campaign, it's not going to work on Google. If they viewed someone, well, for whatever reason, if you have your bumper ad public on your YouTube channel and someone looks at it, they're automatically going to be in that step 2, 3, or 4, wherever you had it. You're not going to start that user off by step 1. So you got to keep that in mind too. That's why if you're doing an ad sequencing on Google, make all those ads unlisted so you get pure data strictly from your ad of, no, they only saw this video and hit this step because it was an ad, not because they stumbled upon my organic video somehow.
Yeah, that's a really good tip. Let's put that in the bottom there. Make your video ads unlisted so you don't muck up your data.
Yeah, and it just makes your organic channel look better too. If it's not, all the different 15-second variations. I hate when I see that on channels.
Yeah. Okay, let's shift focus here a little bit. So how does YouTube help you with your non-video campaigns on Google Ads?
I think, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, this is an article I wrote for Search Engine Land. We want to make sure people know that they can, especially the budget conscious one who said like, oh, I don't, is it really worth it to do video? Yes, because it can go beyond just YouTube. You can use videos in your responsive display ads, in your app campaigns for your universal app campaigns within Google. That's a right there, the one that we just passed by, that's an engagement ad. It's another form of display. You can add video for your Gmail ads. So it's you can use your videos to really boost your other campaigns and boost awareness. And again, it's still video views that we can create audience from to do potentially different next step remarketing with additional video campaigns. We used to be able to use video views for some awesome display remarketing, but they took YouTube user audiences away from display campaigns, which is unfortunate. But the more we getting that user engaged, then we see sometimes better click-through rates from these display ads as well, just again driving more traffic. So for me, I wrote that article to say you don't have to make a video once and just use it once on YouTube. There are other ways that we could enhance our other paid media campaigns within Google.
Yeah, I think I want to echo what Joe said about that earned view. Like people that watch a video and then, make that organic leap to go watch another video on your channel. Like that is just such a huge, metric that we're able to retarget from. And so it goes to Joe's point of just being able to use YouTube, not just to serve a video. Like you serve a video, you get performance, you get views, you get clicks, you learn about, that consumer, what they like, what they don't like, if you've got multiple variations or you're running that across multiple, channels. But then you also get the impact, the halo effect to these other channels. And, with something like display, it's hard to see that halo effect because all a user can do is click, right? Same thing with search, right? When you go in there, all a user can do is click. So like, how did YouTube help that? Well, the thing that you have to look at is the impression volume for your brand search, right? If you're showing your brand via YouTube, and you put some spin behind it, you should see more people searching, for your brand. That should happen. We usually see that. Another place to check is your search trends, looking at your brand from a search trend standpoint. If you have a unique product, maybe that product name is spiking in trends. But those are two areas that we usually check. And then also, I think, where YouTube has helped a lot of our brands, especially those with longer path length, longer time to purchase, is the earned view. We take those different videos that they watch and we say, okay, this is a low funnel video, this is a top funnel video. If they watch a low funnel video, we know they converted X. If they watch this top funnel video, we know they converted X. And so YouTube begins to play very similar to your website or very similar to like Instagram, where we can retarget off of this platform. If they subscribe, if they like, if they comment, they all become different audience segments to us, very similar to like a product view, an add to cart. While they might not convert as well, they are still audiences that we can learn from. And so, not being on YouTube, I think at this point is really not a great thing for your brand.
Yeah. I mean, like, who do you think is a more valuable audience? Someone who maybe just visited a page once, or someone who subscribed to your YouTube channel and wants to see more content? I mean, it gives us this opportunity to hit that more valuable user than just doing our typical, all page visitors. Let's start off with that one. It's like, why? We can do a lot better than that to start off any sort of campaign.
So the question is, how do you use YouTube to drive your other advertising efforts? How do you do it the other way around? How do you build a YouTube channel and a YouTube following?
Content. You know how it works, Fred. Look at you. You do a live video on YouTube. You know how it works. You're reaching out to people that know their stuff, and you provide value. That's what YouTube is. People come to this platform for three things, in my opinion. That's entertainment, education, and inspiration, right? And I think education is the one that is really the hidden thing. There's so many things you can learn on YouTube, right? And so it's really about the content and the value. Now, if you maintain consistency along with that, like every single week or twice a week, wow, it goes faster. If you have like the videos that you upload longer than 10 minutes, I think that helps. Hasn't been proven, but I think you're able to get into more ad placements, for your videos. And I think that helps. But consistency and value, but most importantly, value. And if you can do it face to camera, even better. People want to see real people and talk to real people. So I think it's content over everything. I don't think you're going to run Facebook or display or search and end up building a YouTube channel.
Yeah. Hey, Tim, thanks for joining us. Good to see you on the live stream. Tim's got a question. I'm sure we all know Tim. So what's your favorite prospecting audience strategy on YouTube right now? He's suggesting custom intent in market or specific placements.
Mine will be a two-part answer. If it is going to be TrueView in stream, it will be custom intent because we can play around with that. You can create custom intent on your converting keywords, you're converting queries because we know how match types work now. So you're converting keywords and queries are two different things. Take your competitors' names, make a custom intent audience, and check that out. Export, best-selling products from your CRM or Google Analytics, make custom intent audiences off of those. Take your site search, your internal site search from analytics. What are people actually looking for when they get to your website? Find those options and then create audiences off of those. Find more people looking for things that you have that you could do better than your competitors, and then hopefully drive more conversion. So from the in-stream aspect, that's it. I've for top of funnel, and you're going to pay a little bit more for this, is from TrueView Discovery has really become one of my favorites, just because you're targeting YouTube search results. You do have the option to target just YouTube search results. So if people are going to YouTube, they're typing in something that they want to see. And if you have a product or a solution or a demo that answers that question, you can be the first result there. So for building that initial awareness audience, I love that one. Now, if someone clicks on that discovery ad, you're paying for it every single time. And then you're sending them to the watch page. There's no call to action extension. There's no shopping card, nothing like that. You just engage with my brand, watch a video. And we've done this with clients. I had a client that had recipes and stuff, more in like the baking industry. We had a 30-minute video that we used as a discovery ad, and we're paying like 3 to 7 cents to have people watching this 30-minute like demo and video, and they're engaging with our brand for 30 minutes. And that is us to build, this person's engaged. Oh, they're subscribing. They're watching more videos. They want to see more recipes and everything. So it's not always about driving them to the website and convert. Nobody goes to YouTube for your free SaaS demo. That's not why people go to YouTube. So stop doing that. All right. Show them something be the solution, be there. And that's where discovery has really become my favorite, because you can hone in on specific keywords and problems that people have, be there with a video and show that your solution and keep that user engaged. Now shut up now. That was long.
No, that was great, Joe. That was great. And I don't know much I can add on top of that. I mean, just to say that like the only thing that we do is we have affinity and topics up top, and then we have custom intent and end market kind of in like that next level in terms of for our prospecting. And those are the two that we compare. Sometimes affinity wins, most of the time end market wins just because of, the targeting. But I will say there are two things that I want to add on to what Joe said, because what Joe said was perfect. Was sometimes when we have the volume in terms of an advertiser that is getting a lot of volume to the website, we have the conversion pixel set or the goal, whatever it is, we can use conversion probability inside of Google Analytics as well as session quality. These are two different metrics that Google gives us, and what they're doing is they're evaluating the probability of conversion and how high this session quality is. And so what we do is we take the highest session quality and we build a lookalike off of that, or a similar audience inside of Google. And that is one tactic that we take to try to reach a new prospecting audience, which is leveraging the audience that comes to our website, but only the highest value type of users there. And then something definitely not audience focused, but kind of is the new lead form ad. Is that when we use the new lead form ad, we find that is working well for our prospecting audience. And we believe that lead form ad is working well because we're just giving them another option, that they don't necessarily have to click through to our website to convert. They're more just, being able to fill out that form there. And so while this is not an audience target, it's a different way to reach your audience that could potentially improve, conversion rates and performance.
Yeah, we're showing the lead form ads on the screen right there for people who haven't tried them. I believe on YouTube that is an opt-in beta, or you have to be whitelisted by your account manager. So reach out and beg for it, because it's a pretty cool way to turn YouTube into something much more actionable.
Yep.
Good. Well, this has been a great conversation. There's a couple of articles I want to show real quick that we haven't gotten to, but they are on the resources page. So you can also get your Google Shopping ads on YouTube now. I believe Joe actually did a post on that as well, on search engine land. So TrueView for shopping and TrueView for discovery. So some actionable tips in there. Joe, you did a presentation at SMX Munich last year. This year didn't happen.
No.
Some really good stuff in there. So that's an article with some really good advice that you can go through the whole presentation. And then there's also extensions, right? We haven't really talked much about extensions on video ads, but you can do site links, you can do locations, and call to action extensions. So a lot of ways to enhance these ads to drive more of the interaction and engagement that you actually care about. So those articles are posted on the show page. So again, as a reminder, go to the live page, and then at the bottom of that, we have all those articles. With that, I want to give each of the panelists a moment to wrap up and maybe talk about anything they think is important that we missed. And who wants to go first here?
I'll go first. I think, what did we miss? I think we could have talked about lead forms a little bit more. I think we're seeing fantastic results from that, from our clients. I think, what else did we miss? I think we could have talked a couple more hours. We could have spent another hour on creative, maybe another hour on just, performance. But I think for anybody that's listening that isn't testing YouTube, it's definitely a place to be. It's definitely a channel that you can find a great amount of engagement and a great amount of performance. It's just going to take some work, some analysis. But usually the harder things in marketing usually have the best performance attached to them. But yeah, that's it for me. Fred, I really appreciate the opportunity. Joe, as always, it's a pleasure.
Yeah, I think you just offered to come back for a couple more hours of this, right? So,
hey, Fred. Well, I mean, just let everybody know. I'm gonna. So I don't know if everybody knows this, but Fred was an all-star on YouTube. Before anybody knew, he was doing what were they, Fred? Google. What were they called? Google Hangouts or whatever they were.
I mean, we did these huge live streams for all the agencies, and
yeah,
it was fun. So we had this like $1 million production studio inside one of the Google buildings, and then we get into the studio, and they literally spent $1 million on it. And then
so do I. See,
me,
same thing.
They're like, "Wait, the lens is wrong." Like that one thing, and so the camera was literally this close to my face to make the whole thing.
If anybody gets a chance, please go look up these old videos of Fred, because I used to watch these things and learn so much working at an agency. He provided so much value to me, everybody, that when I saw him at person and I was speaking at this event, I literally fangirled like I'd never fangirled before. I fangirled like I saw Michael Jordan for the first time. Like, that's how crazy it was. And if you remember this, Fred, I came up and said, "Hey man, can I get a picture with you?" And Fred's response was like, "Yeah, man, of course. Totally cool." And so to answer your question, Fred, I'm always here. You can always call me, because I know that you provided so much value, to me in my career, just learning from you. So thank you.
That's fine. I really appreciate that. But it's like funny when you're like a big celebrity in a small space. And like this one time I'm at a conference for HeroConf, I think, and I'm in the elevator because I wanted to get a glass of wine to take back to the room, and like I'm in the row, and like totally like not presentable. And these new guests get into the elevator with me, and they start staring at me, and they're like, "Are you Fred Vallis?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
You want some wine?
You're a rock star, Fred.
Yeah, well, you guys are too. So, Joe, do you have any parting thoughts for us?
To me, I love when people tell me, or clients tell me, that they don't think that their audience is on YouTube, because that's when I get like just a big smile, and this is like, here we go. It's the second largest search engine out there. No matter, with all the targeting options and custom options that we have, your audience is on YouTube. It's such a cost-effective way to engage. I don't care how big or small your company is. I don't care what industry your company is. You can find your audience on YouTube. And now with free video tools that are out there and everything like that, and all the targeting options that we have, you may have to do some testing. You may have to find them, but for the most part, we're pretty confident that we can find your audience and get in front of them, and then understand why, like Cory said before, why people are on the channel. Nobody's there to buy something right away. They're there to learn and figure out potentially what they want to buy. So you can be there and help them influence it, and potentially you can do it with a ton of free advertising. And that's something that, to me, if any marketer passes up free advertising, it's foolish.
Well spoken. Well, Joe, Cory, you've been amazing guests. Thank you for filling an hour with really good tips. Everyone, thanks for watching. We'll be back with another episode. If you are not subscribed yet, subscribe. That way you get the notifications. You know who the next panelists are. But we plan to continue it, keep it going with amazing guests, amazing experts, hopefully audience engagement so we can answer the questions that you have. But thanks for watching. Stay safe, and we'll see you on the next one.